Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you could join us today for the special New York Times for Kids event. I'm Amber Williams. I'm an editor on this section, and I'm joined by Lovia, who's another editor with me. We actually did another New York Times for Kids event yesterday. So if you joined us, you got to hear many coronavirus questions that we directed towards infectious diseases experts. We had a lot of great questions. So today we're actually going to continue that conversation, but about how you're dealing with coronavirus, how you're getting through it, staying at home, not being at school, being away from your friends, and having to be with your parents all day long. So I wanted to make sure first that if you haven't seen this section, that you know what it is. So the New York Times for Kids, it runs in the last Sunday of every month in the newspaper, and it is just for kids. So I have one here. This is actually the March issue, which was our cats and dogs issue. So this is the cat cover. And all of the stories on this side were about cats. For instance, this story is about how cats are entirely misunderstood, that they seem rude and grumpy, but they really love you and care for you and just have different ways of showing it than dogs. And on the other side, if you had seen this, we had a dogs cover, and all the stories were about dogs, including that they have a really great sense of smell, and they can actually smell in 3D, which is a really cool, fun fact. This section here was a special theme section. We do those a few times a year, but most of our monthly sections actually cover the news and what's happening in the world around us. And that is no surprise to what we are covering in the April issue, which comes out on Sunday. So Lovia, could you tell us a little more about the April issue and what the stories are all about?
Yes, definitely. First of all, dogs rule. Just want to make my position known. But in addition to answering your questions about the coronavirus, we wanted our April issue to reflect how the pandemic has changed all of our lives. So we reached out to 5 kids and asked them to document a day in their lives during quarantine, and asked our readers for books, movies, and song recommendations to help other kids get through this time.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to do today here in the next 30 minutes. We're first going to hear from 2 kids about how they've been surviving the coronavirus quarantine, what they've been up to, what their days look like, how they're feeling, and their recommendations for all of you. And then in the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be reading through your own recommendations. So right now, I want to tell you to please submit those recommendations. If you see below, there is a Q&A box in Zoom. So click on the Q&A box and you can type in your recommendations there. We want to know, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are recommendations that you would give to other kids to cope? So please type those recommendations in and maybe give a sentence about why, how is it making you feel? What's, how is it changing and making things better? And please include your name, your age, and maybe where you're listening from so that we can read that information out. All the information will come to us. No one else to see it, but we'll read through those later. And you can type them in now or anytime over the next 10 to 15 minutes while we're talking with our 2 guests. One bookkeeping note is that this event is being recorded, and your submissions about your recommendations of how you're surviving coronavirus, we may print them in a future New York Times for Kids event. So please do submit, and we look forward to reading them soon.
Yeah, now without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce our 2 guests, Kafira Adams, who wrote one of our quarantine diaries, and Noel Madden, who submitted a lot of recommendations.
Hi.
Hi. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm wondering if you guys can start by just introducing yourselves, telling us where you're from, and also telling us how long you've been stuck at home.
I'll go first. I'm Kafira Adam. I'm 13 and I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. And I've been not going to school, quarantine since March 13th, maybe.
Hi, I'm Noel Madden. I live in Redwood Shores, San Mateo County, California. We had quarantine a while back before most schools did, but luckily I have some really supportive teachers who helped us get through it.
Awesome.
Great. So my first question is actually for you, Kafira, because you wrote one of our quarantine diaries. And in it, you have this really funny line about realizing halfway through your day that you've spent 60% of your time during quarantine reading. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about some of the books that you've been reading, why you've liked them, why you haven't liked them.
Yeah, so I've been reading like Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series, because I kind of feel like that's like a good way to get out of this and get into like another world.
So true.
Yeah. Also, I read this really cool book about like music, and it's called The Beauty That Remains. And I really liked that one. It was kind of sad, but I do recommend it for maybe a little older audience.
How have you been getting your books? Are they like ebooks, or are they books that are around your house?
I'm rereading a lot of my books, and I've ordered some. And actually, before all of this started, I had gone to the library. So I still have a couple of library books left over that I haven't returned.
So smart. So smart. I love that forward thinking. And for you, Noelle, I'm curious because we didn't get to include all of your recommendations in the print edition. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about the video games that you were playing, and also rank them. Like, which are the best for this time and which are the kind of the worst?
So I've been playing a lot of games on the Nintendo Switch. Probably some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe some of you don't. Handheld device, you can put it on the TV as well. I've been playing like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros, Drawful, Rocket League. I've been playing a lot. I like definitely the multiplayer games more because I can play with my family. I think I like this one the best because I've been playing it the most. It's called Drawful. It's where you connect like your phone to the TV and you draw really funny pictures. And probably second best is Rocket League because that one's also new and I like my new games.
That's awesome. It's crazy. I literally have no idea what you guys are talking about. Like, cool.
You think that your video game time has gone up, or is it about the same as it was before?
I would say it's about the same as it was before because I'm not like a TV zombie. I like to go outside too. That's actually, I miss being able to play with my neighbors outside and my friends, but I still do like playing video games.
One of the other questions that we have is how you guys are staying in touch with your friends. Noelle, you mentioned that you missed your friends, and Kafira, in your quarantine diary, you talked about like kind of texting your friends, but are there other ways that you guys are keeping in touch? Either of you can go first.
I've been using like Google Hangouts, and you can like FaceTime and call and text from there. So that's basically how I've been keeping in touch with my friends.
My sister uses Google Hangouts a lot, though I use more like texting and FaceTime, though my school also does do a lot of Zoom calls, like some for just like social interaction, which I think is great.
That's so interesting. How does that work, Noelle? Like Zoom set up by your teachers?
Yeah, so we have all the links posted on a Google Classroom, and then we all join at a certain time.
Have there been any like events that have been canceled or have been missed and are attempting to do with Zoom or Hangout or another way, a creative way?
Well, our like 8th grade class goes on like a week overnight trip, and we missed that. But I think they were like thinking of doing like when all of this is over, if it ends like this summer, like doing an 8th grade like summer camp, so we could do what we missed.
I have missed some stuff. We were planning to do some things. If we don't get back to school, then we're probably gonna miss like our 7th grade field trip that you always do in 7th grade. We also, my family missed a trip to Florida. We were gonna go see our cousins. Also, though, we're also at my school. We were doing a production of Hamilton, but that is probably going to be postponed to next year, which is kind of, for the 5th graders, it's kind of not great because they might go to a different middle school. Though I also missing science fair, but they're doing their best to reschedule it and do it over Zoom and online and things like that.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. I'm curious for the both of you, because Kafira, in one of your entries, you talked about texting your friends and saying that, you were okay even though you might not have been. So can you both share with us some emotions that you felt during this time and what's helped make you feel better?
Sure. So at first I was kind of like really sad because I knew I was probably going to miss like a lot of school and I was missing my friends already. But music has really helped. Like I write some songs and I play the piano. So like playing a musical instrument and reading has really helped like distract and yeah, distract and get into another place of mind.
I think so. I mean, when the quarantine first happened, I thought, okay, this kind of stinks. I mean, it's gonna be for 2 weeks, and I'll be back at school. 2 weeks later, I'm not gonna be back at school for a while. It was like kind of the first time that quarantine really felt real, which was kind of interesting because it always felt like something that would come to an end really fast.
I definitely agree with that. I think we
Now,
thought we were going to work only for a little bit.
on for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like Kafira, I've been putting out my anger through writing these funny songs about the coronavirus because I play guitar, and I like to play games with like our neighbors. We make social distancing games, and I like go on bike rides around my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. How are you finding it being like with your parents 24/7? Because before you at least had breaks from them. Is it tension moments? Are there places you go to get away, or like what are your coping mechanisms there?
There has definitely been tension because I have two younger siblings, so it's kind of a lot sometimes. But my parents are divorced, so I have two different households, which is kind of nice, so I can get like a switch of settings. But getting out of the house and like bike riding is nice.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Something you can do without being around other people.
Yeah.
I feel like the tension, it hasn't as much been with me. My little sister, she gets a lot of the attention. She can be naughty sometimes, and she'll do some naughty things. But mostly I just play more video games with my family, and it started to be that like my mom and dad started practicing, and now they're starting to like beat us at the video games.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, we've been in a quarantine a long time if your parents are beating you at video games.
Yeah.
Do either of you have animals, and do you think that they're helping you deal with this moment?
I only have the chickens because I have chickens, but my parents are mainly pet people. So I wish I had a dog though.
Do you take care of the chickens?
Yeah, sometimes we take turns taking care of the chickens.
Mm-hmm. Where are they kept?
They're at my mom's house, and so we have like our front yard, and they're on like the side of the house by like the drive.
Cool. As a reminder, Kafira is in North Carolina, so I'm very jealous because I'm in New York in a tiny apartment. So sounds nice to have that space.
That is nice, especially now.
Yeah.
Are either of you practicing new skills? I mean, you've talked about like playing music, and you've talked about like playing video games, but I'm curious, like, are there other new things that you might be trying now because we have so much time? I, for one, am baking a lot, which is incredibly hard.
Yeah. I started making like friendship bracelets because I found this friendship making kit. I'm not good at it yet, but hopefully I'll have enough time to start practicing more.
Right, we have so much time to practice.
Yeah.
I've started doing a little bit more sewing because I like practicing, and I made a present for my neighbor because it was his first birthday, and we had a social distancing birthday party for him. I made him a stuffed whale, and I've also been practicing like pogo sticking.
No way.
And
So funny.
My cat has been doing a lot of funny things, and it's quite a sport trying to get her on video.
You're gonna have the next viral video on TikTok. Is that what's gonna happen?
No, I don't have TikTok. I wish, but my parents say no to the social media.
That's fair. Maybe just two more questions. One that I have, I was wondering kind of what is the hardest thing about the last few months? Like if there's something specific that, maybe you struggled with or just didn't realize that it was going to be so difficult. What is that thing?
I have two. The first is like school because we have like the school work, and then our teachers give us more homework. So since we're not doing work at school, it feels like a little more work, but it's the same amount. just depends on how you use your time.
Mhm.
And friends, like not seeing them every day at school.
Yeah, that's really hard.
For me, I think probably the hardest things are like Kafira said, not being able to go to school is a little bit tricky because it's like school, but it's not really the same.
Mhm.
And also for me, it's like I never realized how much I miss being like standing right next to somebody, or like shaking hands, or like giving someone a high five. It's just like you see, or like when you see a dog I know pass by and he's like, "Oh, come pet me," and I can't,
Yeah.
Wow, hard agree. I cannot wait to hug my friends again so badly. I've never even wanted to like hug my friends, and now I want to hug them all the time.
No, seriously, earlier today, one of my neighbors came by and did a social distancing visit. And it was so nice because she was standing outside and I was in my apartment in my window looking out and just talking to her. And it was like, I had forgotten that it could be nice to just not see people over a screen. And even though we were yelling, she was like, "How are you?" And I was like, "Great." Yeah, and it made me just remember that, like, yeah, sometimes just being in the presence of other humans is really nice.
Okay, last question before we turn to the recommendations from our viewers. I was wondering, if you've thought about this, once quarantining, staying at home is all over, what's the first thing that you really want to do, that you've been craving, an activity, something to eat, somewhere to go, whatever it happens to be?
I mean, I was on a call with my friend the other day, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, we have to have a 4-day sleepover, 2 days at your house, 2 days at my house." So, like planning ahead, like hanging out, but also like eating out. I kind of miss eating out.
Me too. Thai food so badly. I miss it.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think we have like a thing we started where we have a jar, and every time I think of something I want to do, I write it down and then I put it inside the jar. And when quarantine
that's a great idea.
Take them all out. Yeah, well, my teacher told us about it. But I think one of what we're gonna do when quarantine is over, we're gonna go visit our family. We're just talking like we're just gonna get in the car and just start driving.
Ding dong, we're here.
Hi, we missed you.
Seriously. No, that's a great idea. I love the jar idea. I think I might do that. Might make also gives you something to like look forward to, which I feel like is missing when you don't know when this is gonna end.
All right, well, Kafira and Noelle, thank you so much for joining us and to talk through your experiences. And we look forward to, and the Sunday edition, if everyone grabs it, the New York Times for Kids on Sunday includes recommendations and a quarantine diary from Noelle and Kafira. So thanks, guys, and
bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to turn to the recommendations that you all have been submitting about what you've been watching or reading or listening to and advice you have for other kids. If you haven't submitted anything yet and you still want to, you can absolutely still do that. Just click on the Q&A box below and type in your recommendation or advice. Include your name and your age and where you're listening from so that we can read out that information. So let me turn to what has been submitted. Okay. First, we have Opal, who is 8 and she's in Olympia, Washington. She says, talking to friends on Zoom, it makes me sad and happy. Definitely agree with that. Lovia, what do you think? Have you been chatting with your friends on Zoom and how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I've been, I would say, FaceTiming in record hours. My phone usage is incredible. And it also makes me really sad and happy. It's like happy to see people and like to socialize, but it's also sad because like we were saying with Noelle and Kafira, like not being able to hug or talk to them or just have that physical presence is really hard. So I agree with you, Opal. It makes me sad and happy too. The next one is from Jake, who's 11 in Newton, Massachusetts, and he says he's enjoying learning about fish, different facts, by looking at YouTube, and he's also enjoying watching Curb Your Enthusiasm with his family, that sounds amazing. I have been watching a lot of YouTube as well, but Amber already knows this. I talk a lot about YouTube.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of YouTube as well.
Oh my God, really? What have you been watching?
Well, first of all, there is this groundhog called Chunk the groundhog, and every single day he pops up and he eats fruits and vegetables from this guy's garden. And I just find the chewing very therapeutic, and I just like the destruction and the chaos of this groundhog coming and not knowing about the coronavirus and living his life. So I've been watching videos, his daily vlog of a groundhog.
Yeah, I love the idea of animals just like truly not being aware of what's going on, of us being stuck at home. I'm going to read another one. Leif and Eric, age 8 and 11, from Princeton, New Jersey. They're watching The Office and the Shannara Chronicles. I feel like I pronounced that wrong. The Office makes us laugh, and the Chronicles is very cool. I've never seen The Office. I'm sorry. I feel like I've just outed myself. But I've seen clips, and it's very funny. It's a good time, good way to spend your time.
Series are a good idea because then you have like many to listen to or read or watch.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gemma, who is 5 and is in New York, she says, I am listening to Into the Unknown and watching all the Star Wars movies with my 10-year-old brother, Ethan. It makes us feel like maybe there's another galaxy far away that will let us play together again. Well, that was really beautiful. Thank you, Gemma. I totally agree. Just like Kafira was reading Harry Potter, I've also started rereading Harry Potter, and I agree. It kind of, puts you in a different world, and you can kind of forget about being stuck inside.
Yeah. I really like, on that note, I really like Mia from Oakland. She's 10 years old, and she says, I like having my friends stand at the foot of my driveway and my family, and I talk to the family that is standing at the foot of the driveway. I've missed my 10th birthday, and I miss the amount of social time I used to actually get with my friends, both on the weekends and school related. I have liked John Krasinski's Some Good News videos. They have been uplifting. I like the driveway kind of anecdote because, like I said earlier today, like it was just really nice to have my neighbor who totally dropped by unexpectedly to stand like really far away from me, but to kind of like shout from my window like, hi, hello, Janice, it's great to see you. So I also really like that, Mia.
Will, who's 10 and is in upstate New York, says, I recommend working on a big Legos project, which is really smart because then it's like something with your hands and something you can like leave in one place and turn back to. I really like that suggestion.
Yeah. Caroline and Ashley, 11, Los Angeles. They've been doing family game nights, bike rides, virtual sleepovers, baking, and more. I love the idea of a virtual sleepover, which we kind of talked about with Kafira a little bit before, but I think that it's nice to just recreate like moments that you can't have right now, even if it is over video. And I found that very nice with my friends. We have been doing virtual paint nights. And so we have this very long-term activity in addition to, gathering at like the same time every week. It's nice. It's like what we would do if we were actually allowed to go outside.
Totally. Lena sent us a really nice response. She says, I've been drawing side by side with my 12-year-old daughter weekly. We select subjects that we would like to practice drawing, and then we sit next to each other and draw using the same type of paper, markers, pencils, or watercolor, etc. She's developed a game on her phone that helps us select randomly 5 drawing subjects. So we are forced to do that particular one that specific day. She says it's great. We get really into it. And are able to just sort of tune out what's happening in the world and focus on creating something together. I really love that idea. Like, I have been trying to think of my own skills that I want to develop, and I think drawing is such a good one because if you're forced to draw something new every day or, with your family or friends, then you can develop that skill, but also it's just funny to probably laugh at each other and like your bad drawings of horses or whatever. Yeah.
I really like this next one that came in because I've done it. Not that all of this is about me, but Luli, 11, Illinois. I watch Netflix Party with my friends. Netflix Party is like Netflix, but you can invite your friends and chat with them. I really like that because I recently learned about that little tool when I was watching a bunch of reality TV on Netflix, and my friends who've already seen it decided to join me and rewatch the finale, and it was really nice. And I was like, wow, what a great invention. I wish that all the other like streaming services had a party feature because that'd be fun,
Yeah. That's really cool because it's like watching TV or doing anything. It becomes so much better when you're with other people, and then you can talk about it in real time instead of just having to catch up later.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Ella G, she's 14 and she's in Tampa, Florida. She writes, during quarantine, I find it hard to stay motivated, whether it is in school or exercising. I find it's helpful to make a plan with family or friends and stick to it. I enjoy running with my mother and working on schoolwork or FaceTime with friends. I think that's super, super smart. And I find the same difficulty. It's like if you're not making a plan, and it's hard to do that when it seems so we're just staying in the same place, there's nowhere to go, then it's easy to be like, well, I'll just continue to lay there or be bored or sad. But if you have a plan, then, you know, you keep to it, and you'll find that actually doing those things gets your mood back up.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I've become more, like I've been keeping more of a schedule these days. Like I try to wake up at the same time. I try to go to bed at the same time. I try to schedule like my lunch so that I have something to look forward to. So I really like Ella's plan. Like it is a really good way to stay motivated, to just like have, you know, to create moments to look forward to during the day. I like this one because, oh my God, Daniel 8 from Brooklyn. I recommend this board game called Pandemic. Because we do not compete with each other. We work together as a family to cure 4 diseases, which is very appropriate for quarantine. Yes, that is incredibly appropriate for quarantine. It is very appropriate for this time. I like that idea. I've never heard of that game. Have you, Amber?
Yeah, I've actually played it before. It's a really fun game. He's right. It's like you work together to kind of ironically stop a pandemic spreading throughout the entire world, and you have to make sure that your resources together, and it's a very scientific game, and it probably feels fulfilling as long as you stop that disease on the board game.
Right.
So I really like that one.
That's a good one.
Maybe just 2 more. I'll read one, and then Lovia, you can do the final one.
Sounds good.
We have someone, I don't know if there's a name with this one, but it says writing thank you notes to people in the community, teachers and friends. And I really like that too, because it keeps you active. And when you're thinking of others, that often makes you forget your anxiety or your worries about your own life. And you're thinking about the people that can hopefully make a difference. So I love that.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And then you can like send it to them. I like Margaret 11 from Pennsylvania. My friends and I have had a lot of fun using the app House Party. We really like it because it lets you play built-in games, and it gives you a notification when one of your friends is on the app, which makes it easier to coordinate hanging out. I think that's a really fantastic idea. I've also started using House Party, and also a really cool function in it is that if you have friends of friends, they can join the house party. So it's like a real house party where you might like meet a stranger or someone who's a friend of a friend. And that's been really nice as well. And they also have Catchphrase, which is an amazing game. So that's a really great suggestion, Margaret.
Yeah, Catchphrase is like a good game for any time, especially now.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna start wrapping up. I wanted to say thank you so much for all of those recommendations. What a good roundup of different things to do and how you're feeling and how it's helping. 2 things that I want to say before we say goodbye is, 1, if you have any other recommendations, or you want to continue writing to us, or have any ideas about what we should cover in a future edition of the New York Times for Kids, you can absolutely email us. And our address is kids@newyorktimes.com. So that's kids@newyorktimes.com. And you can absolutely send us your recommendations or any other ideas you have for stories. And we will read and consider them, because we're definitely looking for your ideas and want to hear what you're going through. And secondly, I wanted to note that there are many virtual events that the New York Times has. So you can go to timesevents.newyorktimes.com and see what else is happening. And we hope that you'll check them out and continue to read the New York Times for Kids specifically. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lovia, so much for joining me. And again, to Kafira and Noel, thank you to all of you for joining us, and especially to our subscribers that make these events possible. So have a great day and good night.
Bye. Thank you.